So if you have not already signed in, go ahead and go to the bit.ly that's in the chat and get signed in. Be sure to fill that out. Okay, so I am LaShaka Wesley Hosier. My partner in crime is Gina King. Gina, say hi.
Hey, thanks for joining us again. We're going to talk today about quizzes and forms. I know we're all kind of heading in that direction with our instruction, and just kind of show you how to get that all set up in Canvas, and we're off and running.
Okay, so there we are on our skateboard per usual. All right, there's our links. Remember, we also have the back channel available. If you put a question in there, it will be answered, and then the question and the answer will be emailed to you, so you have it as a reference. Okay, so what are we going to look at? We're going to look at setting up a quiz, randomizing questions, assigning a quiz to a specific section or entire course, viewing the student results, and then using Google Forms for quizzes, because there's a special way that you need to embed those to make it work. So let me move my, there we go. All right, so let's head over to Canvas. Share this tab instead. Okay, so here I am. I'm in my example course. Okay, so I'm going to go to quizzes first. You can see I've started a few things, but nothing has been published and they're not even named. So if I just click on one and I go to edit, the very first screen that's going to come up is actually the details screen. So if I wanted to name this webinar example, and then I could type in my instructions here. So I put, the heading in, and let's call this Ecosystems Quiz. And then I would just type in, please complete all questions to the best of your ability, blah, 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 right? Okay, so I do want this to be a graded quiz. So you have a couple of options. You have a practice quiz, which if you're giving your students a quiz for the very first time in Canvas, I would recommend doing a practice quiz that's maybe 5 or 10 questions long over something super easy. You could do fast food emblems or symbols, social media emblems, just something that they know the answer to, and give them a variety of question types, whatever you're going to put on your quiz, just as kind of best practice so that they understand how quizzes work before you give them one that's graded. You can also do a survey. Surveys can be used to gain opinion or just understand, like a class poll almost, to see where everybody's at. You can do that graded or ungraded, and the students can do surveys anonymously. So I'm going to leave this as a graded quiz. I've got my minor assignment category here. I do want it to sync to Skyward. So that's what the sync to SIS is. I can shuffle my answers so that not everybody's quiz looks the same. I can also set a time limit. So I'm going to set this one for 30 minutes, and I'm going to allow multiple attempts and keep the highest score. Notice you can also keep the latest one, so their last attempt, or I can keep an average of all of their attempts. So, if they make a 10 the first time, they retake it, they make an 80. The next time they retake it, they make a 50. You can do whatever it is. I would just go with highest, and I'm going to do an allowed number of attempts, and I'm going to give them 10 attempts. Okay. Now, here's where you kind of have a little bit of freedom. So I do want the students to see their responses and let them know which ones are incorrect, because that's how they're learning mastery. But I don't want them to see it after each attempt, because that's going to give them the correct answers if I let this checked. Now, I can have it just mark the incorrect ones so they know which ones are wrong, but it won't show them the correct answers. Or I can have it just mark it like their incorrect answers on their very last attempt, so time number 10. I would probably let them see which ones are wrong after each attempt, because if they want to play the multiple choice game, that's on them. But I would not let students see the correct answers until their very last attempt. Or you can also show them specific answers, or show them correct answers on a specific day. So let's say, you know, I'm doing the quiz is due the 20th. I want the correct answers to show on the 21st, so all the students have the correct answers the next day, so they know what they missed. So you have a little bit of freedom there. So I'm going to only let them see the correct answers after their last attempt. And then you have the option to show them one question at a time or all of the questions. I would do one question at a time so that they can kind of focus on that one question without being distracted. And you can even lock the questions after they answer so they can't change their answers. I wouldn't check that personally because I don't like having the feeling of like, oh my gosh, it's locked and I can't change it, but that's up to you. If you want to have an access code, so the kids have to type in a special code to be able to get the quiz, you can do that. Filter IP addresses, that's nothing you need to worry about currently. And then you have the option, like when you make an assignment, you can assign it to everyone, a specific student, a specific section. And then if you need to add multiple due dates, you can. So if you can have one for A days, one for B days. So that's going to be like the nitty gritty of the quiz. So now to get to the actual content of the quiz, you're going to click on questions. So you have two options here. You can add a new question or a new question group. If you do a new question group, let's say I put 20 questions in the group and I ask the quiz to pull 5 questions, it's going to randomly pull those 5 questions for every student. So not every student will get the same quiz, which is great if you're really worried about cheating. But I'm just going to start with a new question so you can see the question types. So once I click add a question, I can change it to number 1 or, you know, question 1, however you want to do it. And then I can decide what I want. So notice you have a lot more options here than you do on a Google Forms quiz, for instance. Yes, Gina, you can set a time limit for as long as you want. You can set it for an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. I would just make it a reasonable time. Like, don't ask them to answer 30 questions in 30 minutes. Students might not be ready for that and they'll run out of time. So here are the different types of questions you can add. Now, this no question is how you would type in instructions. So for example, if I wanted to break my test into like sections, okay, and I wanted to do 4 questions 1 through 5, please use the following image, right? And then I could pull from my image and I could upload whatever I wanted to do here. So now obviously you wouldn't put cookies on your quiz, or maybe you would. I don't know. If you're a culinary teacher, you do you. But you can have them, this no question is a good way to, if you want them to look at a specific resource, if you want them to answer like true, false, and it's for like, you know, questions 15 through 20, whatever. You can set that however you want. This no question is a good way to do instructions in a quiz. Okay, so here I've got for questions 1 through 5, please use the following. Okay, so there's my image of my cookie. Okay, and then I'm going to update the question. So there's that. Okay, so under question, I could type instructions or whatever. And then I'm going to add a new question. So I can see my image before. And now I've got number 1. And I'm going to make this worth 5 points. So over here on the right-hand side, I can change the point value. And I want this one to be true, false. So now I want cookies above are snickerdoodle. Okay, true or false. So now obviously the correct answer is false. So I'm going to move this green arrow and indicate false is the correct answer. So if I click on this red box in true, okay, this is what the students are going to see if they pick true. So I can say, try again, and then we can talk about, you know, this is a snickerdoodle, or do whatever kind of review I wanted to do. So then I could put in a link to something in Canvas. If I've got, if I want to do a reteach from something I already have in Canvas, I can send them to a specific website. I can embed a Google Doc. I can do any type of resource that I want for that incorrect answer. So, you know, if you're looking at this ecosystem quiz and we're talking about marine biology, for example, and they put that something is in the tundra or, you know, in salt water instead of fresh, whatever you do, I can put resources in there to remind them what the correct answer is. And then I can do the same thing for false, because that is the correct answer in this case. I can say, you know, great job. And then if I wanted to, I could record a video. I could put in a song. I can put in an image. So let's go here and I'll just do a thumbs up. Okay, so here we go. Great job. Thumbs up. We'll put that one in there. So now when they, and even though it says something went wrong, it's still there. So now when they get that correct answer, they're going to get a comment from me that says, great job. And they're going to get an image of a thumbs up, knowing that they got the correct answer. So this is a good way to kind of instantly reward your students so they know what they did wrong or what they did right, and give them feedback or reteach within the quiz. Okay, so I'm going to update that question. And now you see question number 1, cookies above or snickerdoodle. And it doesn't have any of the extra stuff there until I add another question. So now I can go in and I can pick fill in the blank, fill in multiple blanks, multiple drop downs. So if you switch to multiple drop downs, notice what it says. And it's going to prompt you for every question to make sure you get it right. You can even do an essay question. So you type it in and then the students just type in their essay. Or you can do a file upload question. So for all of my math people out there, if you want them to show work, or if you're in art or something else, you can, the very last question of your quiz, or even in the middle, you can have it be a file upload so they can take a picture of their work and upload it there. Or if, you know, you've got the quiz and you say, okay, here's my review, questions 1 through 10, and I'd like you to also turn in this particular assignment that was due with the quiz, you can do that there and count it as half the grade or whatever, however you run your class. Okay, so if I hit save and publish, okay, now my students are going to be able to see this quiz. So it's saving and it's got a lot to do there. And notice it still says it's not published up here because it's still saving down here. Okay, so while we wait for Canvas to do its thing, I don't want to log in as Samantha because then it's not going to be there. What are you doing? Okay, does anyone have any questions about question types or setups of quizzes before I show you what it looks like for the kids? I know it's moving extra slow. Let me try and refresh and see what happens. Oh, good.
How did you set the timer again, please?
Oh, good. If you go to the details.
Yeah.
So I clicked edit, and of course, there we go. So here's, you would just check time limit, and then you would put in whatever limit you wanted them to have, and then hit save. So I'm going to give this a due date of tomorrow and save it. So now that it's published.
How did you get, and sorry, that's following up the next question. You had multiple due dates. For example, if we have the same class on A day and B day, how did you do that?
I just added a due date down at the bottom. So once you pick your first due date under assign to, so instead of everyone, yes.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay.
So it's saved. We're good to go. So now I'm going to go in as Samantha and show you guys what it looks like from a student perspective. Okay, so here I am in my kitty cat course. I'm going to go to quizzes because it's there. And here's my unnamed quiz that has one question and is worth 5 points. So notice it tells her she has a 30-minute limit. It's worth 5 points and there's one question. So I'm going to hit take the quiz. Now this is going to count as one of her attempts. And look at the top. It tells them this quiz will be submitted in 30 minutes. It doesn't care whether you're done or not. It's going to turn it in. So the students can choose to hide the clock if it kind of stresses them out, or they can show the clock. If it was up to me, I would always want the clock there so I knew how much time I had left. But again, up to them. Okay, so here are the instructions. For questions 1 through 5, please use the following. There's nothing there. The students can mark these. So if I had, you know, a whole bunch of questions and they wanted to mark them to come back to later, they could do that. So here's my question. Cookies above are snickerdoodle. So I'm going to go ahead and put in true. Okay. And no new data to save. Last checked at 11:33. So the students can see when the quiz is kind of making sure they've answered all their questions and what's happening. And then I'm going to hit submit. So now as Samantha, okay, it tells me that I made a 0 out of 5 on my first attempt and that it took me less than a minute. So when you go in as a teacher and you look at the statistics for the quiz, you can see exactly how long each child took a quiz, how many attempts they needed, how long they did for each attempt, and then what their score was. So right now it's telling me that my kept score is a 0 out of 5 because I set it to highest, remember. So here we go. Samantha can see the correct and incorrect answers because that's what I did, right? So you answered true. And I put try again. This is a snickerdoodle. So obviously there would be a picture of a snickerdoodle there because this is clearly like chocolate chip. Okay. So now as Samantha, I can go back to quizzes and I can click on this unnamed quiz again. And I should be, oh, I didn't set this one to 10. I only gave them one attempt. So I can go in if there were multiple attempts and they could retake and retake. So see how it says Miss Johnson has no attempts left? That would tell the kids like, hey, dude, you had one attempt and you don't have it. So let me log in as me so you can see what happens. I'm actually going to moderate the quiz and give Samantha another chance. Okay, so if I'm in as the teacher now and I go to quizzes and I click on my unnamed quiz, I can see my speed grader here. So I can see Samantha and I can see all of her incorrect answers. Oh, you guys, hold on. Share this tab. Okay, so in speed grader, I can see what Samantha's score was, how long her attempt was, when she submitted it, and I can see which questions she got wrong. Or if I go back, I can click moderate this quiz. So now for each student in the class, I can see how many attempts they had, how long it took them, how many attempts they have left, and what their score was. So let's say I've got a child, like Samantha says, well, you know, it finished in a minute because my computer died or whatever, okay? I can go in and I can hit this pencil, and now I can give her extra attempts. So I'm going to give her 5 extra attempts, and on every attempt, she's going to get extra time if I so deem it. So everyone already gets 30 minutes. I'm going to add 5 more minutes extra time on every attempt for Samantha. So this is a good way that you can moderate for your students that do need extra time if they're getting time and a half or double time. You know, if every kid normally gets 30 minutes, I'm going to give her 30 extra minutes. So now she's got double time. And then I can manually unlock this quiz for the next attempt. So I'm going to hit save. So now if I log back in as Samantha, I'll see that she has 5 attempts left. And notice she gets an extra 30 minutes on each attempt. So whatever notes you put in to moderate, it's going to tell you, okay, this kid got extra attempts and they get an extra 30 minutes or whatever you want to do for that. So that's what moderate means. And then once she goes in and retakes it, then the lock would be there. So I can do that for every student if I needed to. The other thing that I can do if I click on quizzes and I go back to my quiz is I can look at the quiz statistics. So here in my statistics, I can see, I can filter it by section. So if I wanted to do it for just my A1 class or whatever, it's going to give me the highest score, the lowest score, a deviation, and then what the average time was for everyone in the class. So here, if I had more than one student, all their little grades would pop up here as like a bar graph. And then I can see, based on respondents, which questions are most answered incorrect or most answered correct. So that's a good way to tell if it's a bad question. And then I can look at the student analysis. So it's there, and it's going to do it as a CSV, which it's going to come up with just individual information for Samantha, or I can do it as an item analysis, and that's going to come up per question. So you guys can figure out the difference there. Okay, so that's pretty much quizzes. That's moderating, looking at all the statistics, going in, changing, being able to add directions. And again, if I wanted to preview what it looks like for the kids, I don't have to go into student view. I can preview what will come up for the kids. So here's, the clock starts. Here are my questions. So if I say, okay, I don't like the way this looks, or I need to make these instructions bold, maybe call attention to them, whatever, I just click keep editing, and it's going to open. Now, because Samantha has already taken the quiz, okay, it's going to yell at me and say, hey, someone's already taken this. So if you change it, you might want to let the students know or either regrade. So I can go in and I can just change it here, and I can click on the pencil, and I can make this, instead of paragraph size, I can make it bold, and I can make it red just to draw more attention to it, or whatever I wanted to do. So I didn't really change anything as far as answers were concerned. I just changed some aesthetics. So that wouldn't necessarily require a regrade. Now, if I go in here and I change this to, something else, and I add either another correct answer or I do something else, then I could regrade and call for the students that when they're regrading, if it was marked incorrect before, to give them points, or if it was marked correct before, you can actually choose to not lower their points. But since I don't have any actual students, I can't show you that. But that's it. And then you can do a rubric if you wanted to. So I can add a rubric here. I can add criteria. So here's a description of a rubric. So if I wanted to do answered questions, and then I could type in my long description here and update it. Okay, and then I can add a rating score, update my rating title. So now here's my rubric, or I can find one from another class that I've already built. So if you wanted to use a rubric, you could even do those on quizzes, which is fun. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you guys is how to do a Google Forms quiz. So let's say you already have a Google Forms quiz that you built last year that you put out in Google Classroom. Okay, so you're going to go to assignments. You're going to add a new assignment, and I'm going to name this Google Form Webinar Quiz. Gina. Okay. So I would use the embed tool here. So if I go to my Drive, so I go to drive.google.com, and I look for a form. Come on, Google. Okay. None of those are, oh wait, there's one. Okay, so here's my example form. Okay, so I'm going to open this. And if I click on the send, okay, if I click on, let me delete this. No. Red, blue, purple. Okay. So if I click on send, and then I get the embed code here. Where is the file upload question? Oh, here. All right, we're going to delete this question. All right, so send, embed. Okay, I'm going to copy this code. And then I'm going to go back to my assignment in Canvas. And I'm going to click on the embed feature. I'm going to paste my embed code. And then I click here. And now here's my Google form that my students would be able to fill in for their quiz, right? So when I come down here, and this is the important part, I'm going to leave it at 100 points because I want to be able to put the grades in because it's graded and it's a quiz. I'm going to leave it in the assignment group. I'm going to do all of that. Under submission type, I'm going to click no submission. Now, I know you're thinking, but I do want them to turn it in. They're still going to be able to turn it in because they're still going to be able to click through and click submit on the Google form itself. But as far as Canvas is concerned, they're not going to be able to, they're not going to have to enter a text or do a file upload or any of that. So I'm going to leave it, all the rest of it is the same. I'm going to assign it to everyone, and I'm going to do a due date for today, and then I'm going to save and publish. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like for them. Now, I don't think it'll let me click through because I didn't answer anything. Okay, so here, favorite color is red. Here's the date. Okay, great. And then next. Next. Be sure to only use numbers and capital letters. Okay. Next. You're still using... Stop yelling at me. Next. Okay. Anyway, they would be able to click next and then be able to submit. But notice, once they see it, it pops up immediately for them. Those are not the same steps for a Google slide presentation. And Gina asked if you can do Google Forms using Google Assignments. You cannot. If you try, it actually gives you an error message and tells you Google Forms is not supported using Google Assignments. So this is the only way to get a Google Forms quiz in that will show up for the students without it linking out to somewhere else. Okay, so questions, Gina, other than the ones I already answered?
No, so somebody was asking about should they follow the same steps if they are doing like embedding a Google Slides? And so I just kind of said, publish them to the web, go file, publish to the web, and get the embed code that way.
You can do it that way, or you can use the plug. So if I go to make an announcement and I click on the plus announcement, you can also use this plug here and go to Google Apps and then pull a slide from the Google app, and it will post there, but the students won't be able to edit it.
Yeah.
That's if you just want them to see it. So like, here's a slide presentation, and I have the option to embed it there, and there's my button. But that's what it's going to look like for the kids. So if I hit save, then this, once the kids log in, this is what they'll see.
So I'm sorry, Lashaka. So for this, what you're showing us, because that was my question, you said they can only see it. So any links in my slide, they cannot access. Is that what you're saying?
No, they're not going to be able to edit it. Like, they'll still be able to interact with it, but they're not going to be able to make changes.
Okay, but they can click on a YouTube video or a document or anything else in the slide itself.
Yes.
Ooh, I love girls. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. What's the answer for how to do Google Forms in Canvas? That's what I just showed, Schaefer.
I think she just showed up. So.
Okay. You're going to go to assignments and then do no submission. So here's my Google form. If I go to edit, I can get the embed code. So I just pasted it there, and it's going to put the Google form there for the students. And then under submission type, no submission, so that they don't have to do anything else in Canvas. They're just going to do the Google form and hit submit. And then just like other Google forms, you would create the spreadsheet to get the grades. And then you could go to your Canvas gradebook, put the grade in there. And then once the Sync to Skyward works, you'll be able to get them transferred over to Skyward. Yes, yes.
So I think that was all the questions. They pretty much, I think that was a big one for them because, you know,
Forms, I know.
have created quizzes on Google Forms, and we don't want to have to recreate the wheel by having to put all the questions in there, especially right now. So I think that's the big saver, is knowing how to embed your Google form. And then remember that, you know, Canvas is a collection of information. So it's not your Skyward and it's not your gradebook. So you're still going to have to go back to your Google Sheet and, you know, write down the grades. And then because you have embedded the Google form and you have put no submission, that means it's not going to be in Canvas. So you're going to have to go put it in Skyward. And remember that the gradebook syncing and all of that, it's one way. So Canvas is going to send the gradebook when you export it to Skyward. It's not going to go backward. So Skyward is not going to put grades into Canvas. So if that kind of helps you guys map out how the whole process works.
Okay, Morgan, when you do a Google form, you don't have to make a copy for each kid. Each kid is going to get a blank form that they answer, and then their answers go to a spreadsheet.
Okay, so I guess what I could do in the Google form is I could make a question where they say what class period they're in. So when I export it, I could, because that's what I'm trying to not do, is every time I do a Google form, I don't want to have to make a separate form for each class and label it per class, and then also like put 5 separate assignment entries in Canvas. I was just getting confused about how to work smarter, not harder.
Yes,
Right.
on your Google form, I would recommend doing a drop-down question. So if you're looking here, you can see, and it's not going to let me do it because I'm not. Okay, let me save it. If you do a drop down, that means A1 is always going to look the same, because you may type it in with a capital A and the number 1. Your kids might type in like a lowercase a and the number 1. They might type in a lowercase a and the word 1. They might not type in anything at all. So you want to do it as a drop down so that you have the uniformity. So when you go to sort it by period, all of the A1s are together. Does that make sense?
Okay. That, I think that'll help a lot. I really like Google Forms and I want to be able to use it, but I couldn't figure out how to make it compatible with Canvas. Okay.
It took me a few times. There's a good thing, Samantha, bless her heart, I would send her a message and say, hey, do this. And she'd send me back, I can't. And then so I finally figured it out. The embed code, no submission type, is the easiest way for students to be able to access a Google form. And then you would just need the drop down for all of your class periods so that they can, and make it a required question so that they have to answer it, and then you'll be good to go.
Right. And then you just go on your Google Sheet and you sort it by class.
Yep. And Gina, thank you for pointing that out. Tomorrow at 7:15, we are going to be discussing modules. And then at 11:15, we're going to talk about presenting. So when you do, like, you know, what we're doing now with the Meet and in Canvas, and then also pulling in Nearpod, since that was just announced on Monday as something that everyone has premium access to. Yep. Okay, if you